Hello and welcome to the Kim Iverson Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. We do have a really great show for you, lots of information. We're going to go through the latest on the war in Ukraine. Things are getting really ugly as the United States ramps up a $100 billion aid package, more money coming in from Europe. But they're going to start conscripting Ukrainian men from around the world, not just from Ukraine. We're going to get into that. Also, the latest coming out of Gaza, mass graves have been found, very devastating imagery and devastating claims that are coming out that have been verified by CNN reporters, by Reuters reporters. We're going to go into that, what they're finding, what they're seeing in Gaza, and also some of the updates on the latest of the Rafa invasion or the Rafa attack. The Rafa, I'm not sure how you want to categorize it, that the IDF is planning. Also, the protests are getting rough around the country. Police are cracking down. We're going to talk about the anti-Semitism that is being claimed at these campus protests that are pro-Palestinian protests. But also, we have a guest for tonight's show that is going to be a very interesting one. Armin Navabi is joining us tonight, and he is a self-proclaimed pro-Israel Zionist. He is an Iranian ex-Muslim who is secular. He's atheist. He promotes he supports and promotes the overturning of the current Iranian government in Iran. So we're going to talk to him tonight. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. I'm sure we're going to disagree. I'm sure there's going to be a debate, but definitely stick around for that interview later on once we get through kind of the latest stuff that's going on in the world. So let's get started with what's going on. Let's start off with Ukraine. Now the consulates have suspended services for military-aged men around the world. Here is the story. Ukraine on Tuesday suspended consular services for military-aged male citizens until May 18th, criticizing Ukrainians abroad who said it expected to receive help from the state without helping it battle for survival in the war against Russia. So the war must be going really well, right? If they're deciding that now they need to conscript all of the men that are around the world and saying, hey, you want your visas renewed or you want consulate services from us, you don't get any because you need to go report for duty. You need to get out of the country you're in. You need to go back home and you need to go to war. And clearly the only reason why they would need to do that, the only reason why they'd get this desperate to shut down consular services for military-aged men around the world is because it's not going so well. Yet, meanwhile, we're still throwing $100 billion at this war effort. Europe is sending millions, hundreds of millions of dollars as well. Let's get into this. This is the AP reporting that the UK has said that they're now putting themselves on war footing. This comes from the UK Prime Minister saying we're going on to war footing now, but we're not at war, right? Remember, this isn't our war. We're not at war. We're just helping the Ukrainians in their war against Russia. Right. So he says that they're putting themselves on war footing as they go ahead and give 500 million pounds, which is equivalent to $620 million to Ukraine. That's what they've pledged to send, arms worth $620 million to Ukraine. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak described the increase as the biggest strengthening of our national defense for a generation. But wait, how exactly does that strengthen the national defense of the UK to help Ukraine basically pummel itself against Russia? It's now conscripting young men from around the world because they don't have enough fighters. Their fighters are clearly not doing well on the battlefield. Otherwise, they wouldn't be conscripting all these other young men. That is reported to be about 4 million young men around the world. They're saying, or actually there's 4 million, according to the previous report, the Reuters report, says that there's 4 million around the world, but about 860,000 of the 4.3 million Ukrainians living in the European Union, 860,000 are of that group. So they want that group back. But don't worry, the war is going really well. That's what they're trying to sell us. Going so well, in fact, that Poland is going to put nukes right there on Russia's doorstep. I laugh because this is so comically stupid. They're not winning the war. They're not going to win the war. That is really clear. That has been clear now for a very long time. And rather than pushing Ukraine towards a peace agreement, which is what they really desperately need to be pushed towards, we're instead putting nukes on Putin's doorstep, conscripting hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men who are living abroad outside of Ukraine, giving them hundreds of millions of dollars in weapons to continue this battle that they're losing. I mean, this is just comically stupid. And it just goes to show the real effort has nothing to do with Ukraine and maintaining Ukrainian sovereignty or democracy in Ukraine. It has nothing to do with that. Clearly, this has everything to do with the military industrial complex making billions of dollars off this conflict and not wanting to see it end because of it. They would much rather sacrifice the lives of all these young Ukrainian men, depleting an entire generation of Ukrainians, who, by the way, those Ukrainian women are going to marry Russians. That's who they're going to go off and marry. They're going to marry Russian men, and it's essentially just the end result is in 30 years, Ukraine will be Russia, one way or the other. That's what they're ensuring with this, whether they do it through just the ethnic shift, the ethnic demographic shift, or if they do it the hard way by through, just, or with Russia maybe just actually taking the place through this military endeavor that clearly the West is not going to back down from. So Poland is getting ready to send the nukes over. Let me just go ahead and pull this back up, read a little bit of this for you. Poland has announced it's ready to enter negotiations with the U.S. about hosting nuclear weapons to strengthen NATO's eastern flank. Wow. Just what got us into this mess or got Ukraine into this horrible mess to begin with was the expansion of NATO into that eastern bloc. And here they are saying, well, we're going to strengthen it some more by sticking some nukes right there, because this is going to end well, right? What are you putting nukes there for? Because you want to nuke Russia? You're going to threaten Russia with nukes now? You're going to do that? Then you're going to absolutely get us into a nuclear war. Russia is not going to take being threatened very well. They're certainly not going to want you to be the ones to strike first. They're not going to wait for it, like sitting ducks, allowing you to strengthen yourself and strengthen that eastern bloc, getting it closer to the West and NATO and continuing to isolate Russia. I just can't imagine them standing for that. So this is just going to end up with more escalation of this. In no way that is good. No way at all that is good. But that is the latest of what's going on with this war, is that you've got members of the Senate arguing that, well, this war is good for us financially. And this is, Mitch McConnell saying things like, we can't allow this, ridiculous idea of American isolationism to continue on. We can't be isolationists. We can't be America first, says Mitch McConnell. No, we need to be focused on sending $100 billion to people around the world so that we could continue our war effort, because it's actually America first, you see. What they're not willing to just flat out say is it is actually quite America first to be pro-war around the world, because the beneficiary of these $100 billion aid packages, just like the billions of dollars we send to Israel, the beneficiary of that is actually American military companies. They're the ones who actually benefit. They're the ones who we send the money away, and the deal is we're giving the money, but not really. That money is going for American weapons, and you have to then funnel it back to these American military industrial complex companies. And so it is actually, in a way, very America first. And that's fundamentally the problem. Let's move on to what is the latest in Gaza. This is just very tragic. More than 300 bodies have been found in a mass grave. This is one of the two mass graves that have been found. One mass grave was found in northern Gaza at Al-Shifa Hospital. The more recent one has been found in Khan Yunis, the southern Gaza city. The IDF is withdrawn and have left behind literal carnage in mass graves. This is what CNN is reporting. A mass grave with more than 300 bodies has been uncovered at the hospital in southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis. Gaza civil defense workers said following the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the area earlier this month. Colonel Yaman Abu Suleiman, director of civil defense in Khan Yunis, told CNN that 35 bodies had been discovered at the Nasser Medical Complex on Tuesday, bringing the total to 310 bodies. Some 73 bodies had been discovered on Monday. Suleiman alleges that some of the bodies had been found with hands and feet tied, and there were signs of field executions. We do not know if they were buried alive or executed. Most of the bodies are decomposed. CNN is unable to verify Suleiman's claims and cannot confirm the causes of death among the bodies being unearthed. So the claims are that these bodies have been found gagged and tied and then executed. So even if they were Hamas fighters, that is a war crime. Cannot be doing that. Previously, it says a Khan Yunis civil defense spokesman and head of the search mission, Reed Sacker, told CNN that they are searching for the bodies of another 400 missing people after the Israeli military left on April 7th. So, still looking for 400. They found 310 bodies. They're now looking for another 400. Now, the IDF, of course, is denying this. They told CNN on Tuesday that any claim that the IDF buried Palestinian bodies is baseless and unfounded. So they're like, we didn't bury all these bodies. You're getting these mass graves, which, by the way, Reuters reporters and CNN reporters are saying they saw the bodies being dug up themselves. So we know that this is real. This is not just a report. They could not verify. CNN and Reuters said they could not verify the causes of death because the bodies were so severely decomposed. They don't know. But they saw the bodies being dug up by emergency workers. And the IDF is saying, that's not what happened. We were not putting all of these bodies into a mass grave. It says, quote, during the IDF's operation in the area of Nasser Hospital, in accordance to the effort to locate hostages and missing persons, corpses buried by Palestinians in the area of Nasser Hospital were examined, they said. The examination was conducted in a careful manner and exclusively in places where intelligence indicated the possible presence of hostages. So on one hand, they're saying to claim that the IDF buried Palestinian bodies is baseless and unfounded. And then in the same breath, they're saying, all right, we did exhume some bodies that were buried because we needed to test them we needed to see if they were the hostages. We were trying to figure out who these bodies were. And so we did an examination. Well, then what the heck did you do with the bodies after you examined them? Did you just leave them there on the examination table? No, you obviously then buried them. Says the examination in a mass grave. The examination was carried out respectfully while maintaining the dignity of the deceased. Bodies examined, which did not belong to Israeli hostages, were returned to their place, the IDF said. But that is not what the Palestinian people are saying. So the IDF is saying, yeah, we returned them back where we found them, I guess, but not in a mass grave, because the Palestinians are saying that they buried their loved ones in certain spots and their bodies are no longer there. One man at the scene told CNN that he was yet to find the body of his 21-year-old son who was killed in January. Says, I haven't found him yet. We buried him over there, but we can't find him. And we wanted to make him a decent grave. Another man who said his brother Allah was also killed in January said, I'm here today looking for him. I've been coming here to the hospital for the last 2 weeks trying to find him. Hopefully I'll be able to find him. Pointing to a fallen palm tree, the man said his brother had been temporarily buried in that spot. Where did the body go? The IDF says, well, we did take them out. We did examine them. We were looking for our hostages, but then we put them back. Yes, put them into a mass grave. Says, I buried him there on the side, but I can't find him. The Israelis have dug up the dead bodies and switched them. They took DNA tests and misplaced all the dead bodies. So now these family members can't find their loved ones. The Israeli military told CNN on Tuesday that at the end of February, it conducted an operation against Hamas in the Nasser hospital area, and that during that operation, about 200 terrorists who were in the hospital were apprehended. Medicines intended for Israeli hostages were found undelivered and unused, and a great deal of ammunition was confiscated. The activity was done in a targeted manner and without harming the hospital, the patients, and the medical staff, the IDF told CNN. Except they're all saying otherwise, right? They're saying that their hospitals aren't functioning, that things have been depleted and blown up. And a Palestinian woman told CNN she had spent 10 days searching for the body of her daughter, who had been killed and buried in the hospital grounds late in January after a nearby residential building had been struck. She said the Israelis have dug out the dead bodies and they switched them. She and her uncle's wife were buried at the same hour. The mother added, we have found the body of her uncle's wife, but the rest we can't find them. So they don't mean switch them like they switch them with like other bodies. You know, they're saying they switched them around. They switched all these bodies around. So now people have no idea where their dead are buried. And then they're finding these mass graves and they're finding evidence of executions. And it's hundreds of people. And it's just, I don't know what you can call this military I mean, it's obviously a genocide, and that they're obviously committing major crimes against humanity by doing this to the Palestinian people. But the details just continue to get worse and worse and worse, and it's only going to get worse because Israel is preparing for their Rafa invasion, their assault on Rafa. Here is the article from the Cradle. Israel prepares Rafa evacuation with U.S. Arab assistance. So that is one thing the U.S. has been pushing is like, look, you can't just go into Rafa and start assaulting the place and bombarding the place when it is heavily populated with all the people that you misplaced from the rest of Gaza. So there's a lot of pressure on the Israeli military right now to not do the thing they really want to do, which is continue clearing, just making life absolutely unbearable, miserable, and unlivable. So they claim that they're going to be doing this evacuation thing. We're going to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Take their words with a grain of salt. The Israeli army is closing in on completing its plans for an assault on the Gaza Strip's southern city of Rafah, the Wall Street Journal reported on the 23rd of April. Wall Street Journal cites Egyptian officials are saying that Israel's plan to evacuate civilians from the city will take 2 to 3 weeks and will be carried out in cooperation with Washington, Cairo, and other Arab states, including the UAE. The officials say Israel is planning on gradual deployments of troops to Rafah. The troops will concentrate on specific areas where Tel Aviv believes Hamas leaders are holed up. They know where these Hamas leaders are. This is such bull. I mean, for them to be like, oh, we got to get these Hamas leaders in Gaza. They know that the Hamas leaders are being interviewed and they're sitting in Dubai or they're sitting wherever it is they're sitting, but they're not in Gaza at all. And yet they're continuing to bombard all of these people, bombard the civilians, rather than doing what they claim they're good at as Mossad, right? Just go overseas and get the guy. You want the Hamas leaders? You know where they are. You see them on TV. So just go get them. What's your problem? Why are you terrorizing all the people of Palestine? Because it's not about the leaders that are already out of the territory that Israel wants all of these Palestinians out of. It's about getting the rest of them out. So the entire operation, including the evacuations, is expected to take at least 6 weeks. The attack on Rafah will have a very tight operational plan because it's very complex there, right? Like they've had a very tight operational plan throughout the rest of Gaza. So now we're going to believe this. An Israeli security official told the outlet there's a humanitarian response that is happening at the same time. Really? Israel's evacuation plan involves moving Rafah's civilian population upwards towards the city of Khan Yunis, as well as other areas of the strip. So all the areas they've destroyed. We're going to just stick you in the rubble in places we've destroyed, and we're going to add some tents, is what they're saying. They said they're going to add shelters with tents, some food supplies, and medical facilities. They're going to set that up amongst the rubble. Look, the end goal here is to turn the whole place into rubble, to where there is no livable life left really in that region. And then in the end, when the whole operation is over and Israel says, all right, we've done it. We got as much of Hamas as we could get, and we're done now. And all of Gaza is destroyed. They're going to say, now these people can't live here. This is inhumane. It's inhumane to let the people stay here. And they're going to be doing a massive push for evacuating the Palestinian people out, all under the guise of humanitarian reasons. We must, because it's humane. This is a humanitarian thing to do. We must start shipping out these Palestinians to livable, wonderful communities everywhere else in the world. Just get them the hell out of here. That is what Israel is going to be saying, and they're going to do it under the guise of, oh, but we're good. We're humanitarian. This is for them, not for us. We don't want this. If it were up to us, they'd be able to stay and rebuild Gaza into a beautiful, wonderful oceanfront enclave. We'll do that for us. Don't worry about that. Oh, it's just too bad. It's such a shame, such a shame, such a shame. Let's move on real quickly here. I do want to get to our conversation / debate that we're going to have with Armin Navabi here in a moment, but I do want to give you an update to the protests that have been going on the college campuses, primarily at Columbia University. They've also happened in other parts of the country. University of Minnesota, I believe, just had one that police cracked down on. Let me go ahead and play this for you. This is the police cracking down last night on the protest, breaking them up, tearing down the tents. It was chaos last It's just total Okay, so you kind of see, that's they're cracking down. The university's feeling the pressure. The president is being called on to resign. So they're feeling this pressure to allow the police on to break up these really genuinely peaceful protests. If you just leave these people alone, they're just sitting there chanting, singing. They're not these anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish protests that people are claiming. In fact, let me prove that to you. They are so anti-Jewish that here's a bunch of Jews for Shabbat, it's what was it, Passover, right? They were singing, they're participating in the protest, and here they are, they're singing Jewish songs at this pro-Palestinian protest.
Page 16!
See, there's one putting on his yarmulke. I don't know, just looks like a bunch of anti-Semites to me. You know how you can tell these are anti-Semites? Because they're singing out of tune. That's how you know. They could at least sound pretty when they sing. Here's another one. A bunch of Jew haters, these Jews. Self-hating. So then here's this woman. She is bound and determined to prove that these protests are truly anti-Semitic. They are against Jews. I don't care if you see these Jews at the protests and they themselves are out there, singing songs and wearing their yarmulkes. That's not what you need to see. This she is going to prove it. She's wearing a shirt that says Israel. She says wearing a shirt that says Jew on the front. Just watch what happens to her. Any second now it's going to happen. She's going to be attacked. They're going to get her. They're going to run her out of there. They're going to scream at her. Any minute. So here they come. Not that one. And there's somebody holding a sign in the back, Jews for Palestine. Yeah, so nothing happened. That video massively backfired. It was posted by a man who says, my brave Jewish wife is going to go stand in the middle of this protest, and we'll see what happens as she wears Israel on the back and Jew on the front. And absolutely nobody cared. They just continued doing their sit-in protest, not making any sort of, it's just, nothing happened. I want to read this to you. This is from To Parsi. After the crackdown of all of these protests, he writes this, and I think it really sums up the problem that we have with being so supportive of Israel is not just the money that is being sent away, American dollars that could be spent here in the United States, but it's our freedoms are being sent away as well, all to protect the state of Israel. We're seeing our rights, the rights that we claim, that we fight for, we're seeing them constantly being diminished and reduced and even just thrown out the window time and time again, all under the guise of we've got to do what we need to do for Israel. So To Parsi writes this. The outrageous clampdown protests against Israel's slaughter in Gaza are not isolated incidents. They reveal a larger ominous reality. To sustain blind support for Israel, Western countries are forced to erode their own democracies. We're seeing clear signs of this in the U.S. The Israeli government has helped pass laws at the state level that require companies and individuals to pledge not to boycott Israel in order to be eligible for government contracts. These are anti-BDS laws that have been passed in 37 states. The last time I checked in 2019, it was 27 states. Now it's risen to 37 states by 2021. That is before even October 7th. These laws are being passed. The only anti-free speech laws in the country, some of the only anti-free speech laws. You're not allowed to boycott, pledging to boycott the state of Israel. It's illegal in these states, 37 states. Freedom of speech and freedom of assembly are being shut down on university campuses. In Europe, even more extreme anti-democracy measures have been taken. Germany and France have, to various degrees, outlawed protests in support of Palestinian freedom. So there you are in these democratic countries. You're not allowed to protest for Palestine. Germany has outlawed slogans such as "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Even conferences on these issues have been outlawed, including forbidding a former EU minister to speak on those matters on German soil. Not too long ago, Western countries justified the invasion of countries around the world because of their lack of freedom. With no sense of irony and self-awareness, Western countries are eroding their own democracies to sustain their support for Israel while continuing to preach human rights to the rest of the world. In some ways, this shouldn't be a surprise. The link between militarism abroad and eroding civil rights at home has long been known. At 1821, John Quincy Adams pointed to this in his call for America to avoid foreign policy adventurism. America goes not abroad in search of monsters to destroy. She is the well-wisher to the freedom and independence of all. If America engages in militarism, the fundamental maxims of her policy will insensibly change from liberty to force. She might become the dictatress of the world. She'd be no longer the ruler of her own spirit. John Quincy Adams' famous speech was not just a call against militarism. He tied it directly to the liberties at the very center of America's founding. What is new in the current situation is that it shows that it isn't just America's own militarism that undermines democracy and freedom at home. Think of all the freedoms America's lost during the global war on terror, but also America's support for militarism of others. At a minimum, it should be clear to Americans that continued support for Israel's slaughter comes not just at the expense of Palestinian lives, regional stability, and the U.S. potentially getting dragged into yet another war. It also comes at the expense of America's democracy, even if Trump doesn't win in November. It's true, we are eroding our democracy bit by bit, protests being clamped down on, free speech laws being passed, anti-free speech laws being passed. And take a look at this. I mean, this is from this Twitter account called Mossad Commentary. I'm not sure how connected it is to the actual Mossad. It's not Mossad itself. It could be somebody in Mossad, or I'm not really sure. But this just kind of sums up really what is going on, which is facial recognition can determine whether you participated in the pro-Hamas protests at the universities. Your jobs and your degrees will be worthless. Your hiring opportunities will be limited. Look at those threats coming from this pro-Israel account. Those are the types of threats on Americans. That's a pro-Israel account, Mossad Commentary, threatening Americans and their jobs and their future prospects, saying to these students, if you protest, we're going to get your face on record and we're going to ruin your entire life if you don't support Israel. What are we doing? Telling these kids that they're not going to have job opportunities, people losing their jobs for speaking up and being pro-Palestinian, people having opportunities taken from them. I mean, what is happening to our country? All because of a foreign Middle Eastern country most people have never traveled to, don't even know where it is. And yet we're literally eroding American freedoms, American democracy, American free speech, American values are all on the line now. And we've given them all away, all in support of Israel. Support Israel or else under any circumstance, and it doesn't matter what we have to give up. This is insanity. This is absolute insanity. Hey guys, thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show, which you could catch just by heading to that link down below, KimIversonShow.com. You can watch the full show from what you just watched, or you could catch the full show live Monday through Friday, live streams, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. See you then. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Never miss an episode. Never miss a clip. Never miss a segment. Thanks, guys.